And Trump's former chief of staff, Mick Mulvaney, is speaking out about the recent FBI raid at Mar-a-Lago. He spoke one-on-one with NewsNation's Ashleigh Banfield last night and addressed the documents Trump kept at his estate.
Don't ever assume a conspiracy where simple incompetence will explain things. What I know about Donald Trump makes me more likely to think that it was just not paying attention to the details and walking out with a bunch of stuff.
Joining me now with more on that interview is NewsNation's own Ashleigh Banfield. Ashleigh, good morning to you. Thanks for being here. What was your biggest takeaway from last night's interview?
Well, there were like five that I wasn't expecting, Rudabeh. I got to be honest. When Mick Mulvaney said that he thought that perhaps there was a sinister intent on the part of the president for having retained those documents, that sort of left me gobsmacked. He did mitigate that somewhat by saying, in Washington, anything can happen. Might it be completely explainable? That's possible, too. But it wasn't a full-throated defense of why the documents were kept at Mar-a-Lago after multiple subpoenas, requests, and even visits, by the FBI. So that was a big one. Then I think the other one was that Mick Mulvaney, who spent 15 months as the chief of staff to Donald Trump, that's the closest position there is, the most powerful position in the White House other than the president. He said that he hoped he wouldn't win the nomination, that he would be baggage, and that they didn't need him in 2024. And that was the response to my question, would you vote for him if he became the nominee? I thought that was surprising. Then I also thought that it was a bit surprising when he said he's the one Republican that would lose to Joe Biden. So, I felt as though yesterday was a bit of a change by a lot of Republicans. Rudabeh, a lot of Republicans perhaps weren't as excited about jumping on television to defend the machinations and the latest details yesterday that were sort of falling out from this investigation and the search at Mar-a-Lago. That one was a bit more surprising to me.
Yeah, it was a really interesting interview. I want to play a little part of it. He also said it's on the FBI to explain the reason for the search of Mar-a-Lago. Let's listen to that.
The FBI doesn't find a cold body or a smoking gun, then I think this will go down as one of the greatest overreaches in law enforcement history. You don't get to go into a former president's house because of just technical document violations.
So that sounds a little bit more in line with the rest of the higher profile Republican narrative regarding this search. Did he explain at all what the former president would consider a smoking gun?
I tried. I said, what is that? What is that bar? And he didn't really go there so much as pivot to say that it better be something critical, because what he is saying is true. It is extraordinary. You've heard that over and over, that it is absolutely extraordinary to see a search and seizure effort done by the FBI at the home of a former president. That said, the findings would have to be extraordinary as well. He's being hyperbolic when he says a body, of course. And if it's just for presidential documents, of course, that would also probably elicit a lot of criticisms from even the moderates, among us, and certainly the right-wing critics of what's been going on. But if there's anything else, say, for instance, an honest, piece of evidence that leads to that espionage charge that's one of the underlying charges, that I think you would start to hear a lot more crickets out in the critic vein of what's happened at Mar-a-Lago.
Do you get the sense that he's being critical of the raid out of loyalty to the former president?
Heck no. I mean, that I think is what's the most interesting about Mick Mulvaney. Look, he says, this shouldn't come as a shock to anyone. I stepped down after January 6th. And he says because of January 6th, he hopes that he doesn't become the nominee. Because of January 6th, he has too much baggage, and that the Rick DeSantis's of the world would do better against Joe Biden. I don't sense at all that there's a loyalty to Donald Trump so much as there's a loyalty to the conservative wing that might be supporting Donald Trump. So he hedges somewhat during the interview, but he also is quite definitive that the Republicans, in his view, do not need Donald Trump in 2024, and that he said the words, "I hope he does not win the nomination."
All right. Well, again, really interesting interview, and thank you so much for making the time to break it down for us this morning, Ashleigh.
You bet.
And you can watch Banfield tonight and every weeknight at 10, 9 Central, right here on NewsNation.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.